Brothers and sisters, good evening, everyone. Tonight, Brother Heber is going to explain the things that must happen in the future. When we read the Bible and are opened by the Heavenly Father, we will understand God through the ancient prophets, conveying the things that must happen, and we will come to understand. Once there was a king whose name was Nebuchadnezzar. This king was in the prophet Daniel's time. At that time, Daniel was taken captive to Babylon. Wonderfully, this king, the Babylonian emperor Nebuchadnezzar, greatly used Daniel because Daniel had the wisdom of God and knew how to interpret dreams and visions and could teach God's wisdom to Nebuchadnezzar. One day, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And this dream, he knew it was a very important dream. But the strange thing was, after he woke up from the dream, afterward, he forgot the dream completely. But this dream was an extremely important dream. Yet he could not remember at all what dream he had had. So, he summoned the wise men of the land to come in. Then, King Nebuchadnezzar said to those wise men, I had a dream, but the dream I have already forgotten. Please tell me the dream I had. Tell me. A person had a dream, forgot it himself, and asked, What dream did I have? I forgot it. Please tell me. Then who could answer? No one could answer right. He said, I had a dream. This dream is very important, but I forgot it. Please tell me what dream I actually had. So those ministers, high officials, and wise men of the land came one after another before the king, before Nebuchadnezzar, and said, My king, please tell your dream to us, and we will interpret the dream for you. The king said, I have forgotten the dream. If you can tell me the dream that I had, I will believe that you can really explain the meaning of my dream. And so, no one could interpret the dream. No one could. What kind of dream this dream was? No one knew. So they said, No one has ever asked such a question, except for the gods in heaven. Nobody knows the dream the king had. And then, the king was furious and issued a national decree to execute those dream interpreters. The king said, I issue a decree to execute all the dream interpreters. They don't even know what dream I had. How can they explain it? And so, a decree was issued. Among those who were to be killed was Daniel, and also Daniel's 3 friends who were with him. But at this time, Daniel learned about this matter and went to ask Nebuchadnezzar's commander. That is the military commander. Then, the military commander, why the king wanted to kill the wise men of the land, told Daniel, unless someone tells the king the dream he had, then the wise men would not be killed. So he requested this commander to go and tell the king, asking the king not to rush to kill, but to wait for Daniel to receive revelation from God. So then, Daniel took this matter and told his friends, and they prayed to God, presenting this matter to God. Later in the night, God revealed the dream Nebuchadnezzar had to Daniel, allowing Daniel in a night vision to know what Nebuchadnezzar had dreamed. Then, Daniel took this matter and told the commander. The commander then brought Daniel before King Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king said, Are you from the captives of Judah, Daniel? And then he said again, Can you interpret my dream? Do you know what dream I had? So Daniel said, The dream the king had, except for the one in heaven. My God, no one knows what dream the king had, but God in heaven has already revealed the dream you had to me. Therefore, I have come before you to interpret the dream you had. The king had forgotten what dream he had, but Daniel knew what dream the king had. So Daniel said, O king, while you were sleeping, in your dream of the night, you saw yourself standing before a tall, colossal statue. This statue was extremely tall, so tall it reached the sky. This statue was in the form of a man. As for this statue, its head was made of gold. Its chest was made of silver. Its belly was made of iron. The thighs and feet part, its belly was made of bronze. As for the thighs and feet part, were made of iron. As for the feet and toes part, were made of partly iron and partly clay. While the king was watching and thinking, suddenly from heaven, a huge stone struck down from high above and hit exactly the one the king was watching, the feet and toes of the colossal statue. Then, after being hit by this stone, afterward, this colossal statue was shattered to pieces and swept away, and this stone filled the whole earth and became a huge mountain. This was the dream the king had. When the king heard Daniel say this, he was greatly astonished. How on earth did Daniel know this dream that the king had? So he was very surprised. And he also, suddenly, remembered the dream he had. At this time, Daniel was about to interpret the dream for the king, saying, O king, now I will interpret the dream for you. The dream you had, the head of this statue, the head made of gold, is King Nebuchadnezzar, which is the Babylonian Empire. You are this head of gold. Before you no one was as powerful as you, and there will be none after you either. Therefore, you are the gold head of this statue. That is, the king of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar is the gold head of this statue. Then Daniel said again, as for the bronze, the bronze part of the chest refers to a kingdom that will exist in the future, a kingdom to come. This kingdom is the Medo-Persian Empire. However, the Medo-Persian Empire was not as powerful as the king's Babylonian Empire. That is to say, Babylon, meaning that after the fall of Babylon there would be the Persian Empire ruling the world. But after the Medo-Persian Empire, there would appear the Greek Empire. But after the Greek Empire, there will exist another kingdom, a kingdom like iron. The legs, the feet, the parts of the legs and feet are iron. Just like iron, cutting through iron like clay, that kingdom will be as strong as iron. As for this kingdom, at that time, they did not know it was today's Russia. But Daniel knew there would be a kingdom as strong as iron. Russia is as strong as iron. Then as for the part of the feet and toes, the part that is half iron and half clay, it means that this Russia, which is like iron, will split in the future, splitting into a kingdom of half iron and half clay. That is to say, Russia split, and after that, allied again, and the alliance became a kingdom of half iron and half clay, just as clay and iron are mixed together. Yet though mixed together, they cannot bond. Then, this future kingdom of half iron and half clay, when allying with many nations, will also be partly strong and partly weak. At this time, just as, O king, you saw in the sky a stone striking the feet and toes of half iron and half clay. It means that when there appears in the future a half iron, half clay, partly strong and partly weak with many nations, that kingdom allied with many nations, when it appears, the God of heaven will set up in heaven a kingdom that will never be destroyed. This kingdom will not be left to another people. Instead, this kingdom will destroy all kingdoms. And finally, this kingdom will fill the whole earth. This is the dream that the king had. And then, King Nebuchadnezzar was deeply shocked and immediately fell prostrate before Daniel. Then, he ordered great rewards to be given to Daniel. This is Nebuchadnezzar's dream, which is also in the book of Daniel, chapter 2. So today, what Brother Heber wants to talk about is In King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the part of the iron legs and feet is Russia. As for the feet and toes, being partly iron and partly clay means that Russia will surely divide. After dividing, it will surely ally with many nations. Then, the nations allied with it are the clay. Then, the nations allied with it are the clay. Then, the iron is still northern Russia. The northern part of Russia, which is northern Russia. Then, just as Russia, before it divided, before Putin's rule, was as strong as iron. Before Russia divided, during Putin's rule, it was as strong as iron. Originally, Russia was a very weak nation. But when Putin came to power, it became very strong and was able to compete with the UK and US. Directly competing with the UK and US. The US dared not shake Russia in any way. During President Putin's reign, Putin was called Putin the Great. Therefore, in the past US presidents dared not shake Russia, nor did they dare to provoke Russia. This means that Russia at that time, during Putin's rule, was as strong as iron. But after Putin passes away, Russia will surely divide. After dividing, it will ally again many years later. After dividing, northern Russia, led by northern Russia, will ally with many nations again, becoming a kingdom of partly iron and partly clay, just when Russia divides, and allies with many nations again. The Lord God will in heaven set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. Namely, the kingdom of partly iron and partly clay refers to what time? It is the time of the ten-horned beast. That time, brothers and sisters, see a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. When does she appear? She appears during the Great Tribulation, which is the time when the two prophets testify, appearing at that time, which is the Great Tribulation. The ten-horned beast oppresses all nations and peoples, attacking all nations and peoples, and the two-horned beast oppresses all nations and peoples, to receive the mark of the ten-horned beast. At that time, there appeared a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, referring to when the Great Tribulation comes. God will in heaven set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. So now is the pre-establishment period of the nation. Now is the beginning of establishing the nation. So until when will the nation be officially established? For example, we say the Chinese Communist Party. Initially, when it was established, it was 1921. So, in 1921, it founded the party. After founding the party, it wanted to establish the nation. Until when did it have to wait? For the nation to be established, it had to wait until 1949, taking more than 20 years to complete the great cause of nation building. So the spiritual kingdom of Israel now is being established. So when will the nation building succeed? It has to wait until the Great Tribulation comes, probably in the year 2038. Can the nation building succeed? So now from 2038, there are still 12 years left. That is to say, from now until 2038, during this period is the period of nation building, until the seventh trumpet sounds. The nation building will succeed, just fulfilling the kingdom of partly iron and partly clay, which is the kings ruling the world together. That is the ten-horned beast. The 10 horns are the leaders of many nations. Then, the beast is the great wicked man, which is the great wicked man's northern Russian, that king of the north, with the leaders of 10 nations, allying together, when ruling the world together, is when God in heaven establishes the kingdom of Israel. Now is the pre-establishment period of the nation. Now is the time of truly founding the nation. It will take more than 10 years to complete. May glory be to the Father and the Lord,